another featured guest on the show. Hello, Miss Vivian. Did you see her? Is she right behind you, Mark?
Yeah, she's right behind me.
Yeah, so we got another featured guest this time for the financial part, so you probably seeing him quite a bit. We have Mr. Mark Ridao. Did I say your last name right, Mark?
It's Ridao.
Ridao.
That's
Mr.
fine.
Mark Ridao on the show.
Shout out to Mark. Mm-hmm.
So Mark, do you want to tell the people who you are?
Yeah, so Mark Ridao, just a normal family guy, right? Trying to figure out what to do in life in terms of the finance stuff. Got 3 daughters. That's pretty tough, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, I'm into IT system engineer for REI. It's kind of my full-time W-2 job, and then real estate agent on the side, and then investor as well. And then, I'm up to just talking with people just to kind of get that word out about finance, right? It's always kind of that hush-hush thing.
Yeah, and that's what they need right now. They need that right now. So we're going to have Mark on from time to time. We broke down like a section by section of what he will be going over. So, we going to be asking questions, and give his expertise advice on certain topics. So we can start right now with Jared. You got a question for him?
Yeah, I have a question, and a lot of these questions, to be honest with you, me and the wife, we're on the verge of moving. So we might have a lot of questions for you.
Oh yeah, fire away.
Okay. So my first one, for someone with bad credit, what would be like smartest and easiest ways of kind of building credit?
So the easiest way to build credit is basically just get your report and kind of go over it. Kind of track all your financial accounts, from credit cards to loans, all your debt, and just kind of have it all in one place so you can kind of see what's happening, right? And the thing with building credit is just 35% of the time, in terms of that credit score, is just to pay it on time, even the minimal balance, right? That's the number one thing. After that, you'll have other strategies go along the way. But the first thing is just to make sure everything's in place in front of you, and then pay on time. That would be step one.
So with that step, say somebody who got a lot of debt, right? Would you tell them to do that debt consolidation where they make one big payment? Like would that help skyrocket they credit?
It depends. If you can kind of consolidate everything and pay one payment, it kind of helps you focus, right? So let's say you have 6 different types of debts and your money is spread 6 different types of ways, right?
Yeah.
You'll lose track. So if you can consolidate into one, then you need to pay that one payment and pay that one account as fast as you can, right, to get out of debt. For some people, that might not be the case because they can't have a way to consolidate. The other way, there's kind of the debt snowball method, where you, out of your 6, for example, you focus on one, and that kind of just focus on paying that off. So let's say, for example, you have six debts, right, and they total 1,200. Well, let's make it easy, 10,000, right? And each debt is like minimum $100 each. Am I saying that right?
No, 2,000 would be what? 5 debts or 6 debts?
6 debts, right? Let's say 6 debts, and it's $200 per debt, right? Yeah. So now you have a $1,200 per month payment, right? You focus on one. The minimum 6 is $200 for each. You focus on one to pay off, put all your money as you can to pay off that debt, right? Right. Now once you pay off that one, make sure you transfer it to the next debt, to the next debt, to the next debt. It's kind of the snowball method.
So the payment is steady getting bigger as you pay off debt.
Right.
Getting paid off quicker. Okay.
Yeah, you just have to pay it off quicker. There's really no magic way to do it. You just have to focus.
So okay, so if a person is paying off debt, why do you think someone should get a credit card?
If they have debt.
Yeah. If they trying to like, okay, like if you see somebody in a lot of debt, right,
Mhm.
because of credit cards, like say, what advice would you give someone about getting a credit card who don't have no credit?
That's tough because all your debt. So I guess your debt would be what, just regular bills?
Yeah.
Because if they have regular bills and they can't pay their bills, why get a credit card, right?
Well, I'm saying like, what if like you see somebody who struggle with credit card payments and stuff like,
Okay, yeah.
but then you are a new person with no credit, and all these credit card people start coming to you. You don't have no credit, and
Mm.
So what advice would you give that person about getting their first credit card?
So I guess
Mm.
let's step back. I think your question is it's kind of different in sense. So take this debt side away from it. So if you're just starting to build credit, right?
Yeah.
Just make sure you have all your expenses and you have a certain cash flow, right? So and then you just apply. The quickest credit you can apply for is a store credit card. But again, the store credit card is the worst credit card you can get.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Because the department store credit card is only for that store, and plus it usually around like the 24% interest rate.
I never even pay attention when they ask me, do I want a credit card?
Yeah.
They
Man.
just tell me I get like a free shirt if I sign up for a credit card.
Yeah, they tell
I said
you
I'll
what
take that for a bit.
they tell you like 10%. Hey, you can get a 10% discount on your store purchase right now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
But it's not worth it.
I never looked at how much
Uh,
they interest rate are. I mean, I guess because I knew I wasn't gonna get a credit card. Period.
Right, yeah.
card. Yes, indeed. Man, 24%.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But
But that's the
Man.
easiest credit you can get right now. So if you're starting off like you're maybe, you know, brand new to a new job, maybe graduated at college without student loans and you wanted to build credit, that'd be the easiest credit you can. But
uh,
again, if you have a good job, you can also get a Visa or MasterCard because you've already established that you're getting income.
see that part hard is because when you in school, they give you unlimited loans. But like
Yeah.
if you in the
Mm-hmm.
real world, they don't give you that type of money. You know.
Right.
So it's like you can go to school with no debt, and then by the time you get out of school, you got a mountain of debt.
But
You,
you gotta think it like you're a bank, right? You're betting the potential of one person that's going to a college and university. And the probability that they're gonna make it, is better than someone that's already been established and their work their work income. So you kind of have some gauge on that. But if you get potential, how do you score potential, right? It's kind of like limitless, right? So you're like, oh yeah, I can give you a $500 limit credit card because now my brand, where, I know I hooked you already. So that's how they get college students, right?
oh man, oh they
I
yeah.
fell for it, so
Oh,
don't feel bad.
And
I remember when I was on campus, and you can tell when everybody got their credit card because everybody was dressing up.
You got a new shirt, right?
Yeah, no, they had more than they could afford.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah, so
they had it up, man. Yup. Be like, I just copped these, you heard me? Now I got a question. Now, what if it's been, I believe, what is it, 7 years? And if let me see, you haven't paid on something in 7 years, and it closes. Now, should you pay on that still to reopen it, or
Mm-mm.
just let that go into default? No.
It's from what I've heard. I haven't experienced that, but from what I heard, if it's closed, don't even touch it. Like if you reopen it, it definitely tanks your credit score. Because if it's already closed and you haven't paid
Oh.
on it, your credit score basically is baked in with that debt being delinquent and
Mm-hmm.
not being paid. And once you reopen it,
Okay.
you kind of reopen yourself to kind of new can of worms, because now that creditor can collect on it, because you're like, oh, can I reopen this because I can pay on it? Then they're like, oh, you have income now. And so, yeah. So it's a tricky, that's why they have credit repair agencies. It's a kind of a tricky subject on where you should maneuver for those. I would say if it's already there and it's already baked for years, don't even touch it. Just kind of try to have other ways to build your credit score up and build your credit that way.
That make a lot of sense. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, why do you think credit is the building block to financial success?
Because it's your financial profile, man. No one, if you're thinking of any job you get, they'll probably look at your credit. Any loans you're trying to get, they're gonna look at your credit.
Wait, you said job.
Exactly.
Job looking at your credit.
Employers have the right to look at your credit.
So that means like if you wouldn't allow the debt, they're gonna hire you.
So I'm saying they have the right to do it. Not all do it, but I'm saying they have the right to look at your credit and make a decision on your employment.
But like, why would they be worried about your credit though?
It's just, if you can't handle yourself personally on a financial standpoint, how are they going to trust you to handle maybe finances in your workplace if that's a job that you're going to do, right? Or how are they going to have you kind of keep track of all the technology that they provide you? It's just another way to kind of gauge people on how they would perform in the workplace. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I've been told they can pull your credit.
So you got a better chance of getting a job if you got like a 700 credit score.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's not going to help you with your job choices, but I'm saying they have that as a tool to determine if you're the right fit.
Man, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, but
I didn't either.
I better go pay off those library loans.
I've never heard any company deny you because you had a low credit score, but I know it's out there.
So
that'd be pretty messed up.
How can a person start a credit score without a credit card?
Yeah, so here's a story. So I kind of learned along the way, right? Kind of, just trial and error throughout my years. So when my daughter turned 16, I was like, you're going to get a credit card and you're going to figure it out. But the thing is, she didn't apply for a credit card. I added her to my credit card.
Oh, so if she was making payments, it was building her credit.
Yeah, so she's tied to my credit card. She's like, hey, Dad, I want to buy something at the store. I was like, fine, use a credit card. So I get track of it on how she spends, but then I pay it off. But it looks like from her profile, that credit card's hers, and she's paying it off on a monthly basis.
Oh, see, I thought it was still like your name, but just she can use it. Like she's just an authorized user.
She is an authorized user, but her credit profile is getting established.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now she has like a 780 credit score just with that one card.
So how old can you be to do? You got to be 16.
Oh, you can be as young as you want. You're like, hey, I want my kid to be. Well, I guess let me rephrase that. I don't know what age it is, but we started at 16. My other daughter is 14 right now. I'm gonna try to see if I can establish that kind of earlier. Because the longer you have your credit history, once you get that job or that income that comes in after college or once you start working and you've established years of credit history, you're pretty much golden if that credit score and that credit history is pretty solid.
I'm not gonna lie,
man. That's
some people I know went the opposite way. They were putting like the light in the kids' names.
Need a new account.
2 years old with $3,000 worth of light bill.
You're like,
that's pretty. That's pretty smart. But I do got one question: is okay, if you had a balance on the card, right,
Mhm.
$2,000, and you added your daughter, but by you making the payments on that $2,000 already, would that help her score, or do she got to use a specific card?
No, it's she treats that she gets a card like mine. I'm the account owner. She's the authorized user. So as long as I'm paying the account and keeping it at good standing, it looks like on her credit report it's her card and it's at good standing. It does say on the credit report that it's an authorized user, I believe. But it just gives her a leg up, right? So now once she graduates college, she can get her own credit card, but it won't drop. Her credit score will even increase now because it's her own credit score or credit card. And now she can get any loan she's possibly can because she'll be like low debt, high income, hopefully. And then just, you're good to go.
I mean, that's a smart way to go. Would you recommend that?
It all depends. You kind of need to know your kid.
Yeah, that's the
That's the thing. That's the big part, right? You kind of need to know your kid because, if they go wild, then it's your responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So
my shoes wouldn't fit, so I brought 3 pair. Oh man.
So okay.
Yeah.
Why should you check your credit and protect? I guess I know why you check it. How would you protect it?
So I've had identity fraud in the past, and I was surprised. I was like, I checked in one time. It was like during a Thanksgiving. I was like, what is this card on my credit report? I have no clue what it was.
How much did they already use off this card?
I can't remember, but it was like, I do not remember this credit card. And then a couple of days later, there's a way to kind of check your banking history as well. And then there's another checking account that was created in like Ohio or somewhere in the Midwest.
Oh, snap.
So the number one thing, the best, besides the financial part, though, you need to check your credit just to make sure no one takes your identity.
But don't your credit score go down when you check your credit though, right?
No, remember, if that person who took your identity just created credit and uses it wisely, it doesn't affect your credit score. It's just someone's using your name and or not your name, but maybe your social security.
But I'm talking about I thought like if you check your credit score that it drop your credit score.
No. Mm-mm. So there's free program. So there's websites out there like Credit Karma. You probably heard.
Yeah.
If you're checking your own credit score, you can check it as many times as you want. You can buy credit report, a credit score. It does not impact your credit. It's only when you apply for credit. So if you're going to try to get a car, trying to get a new credit card, or try to get a new loan, home loan, personal loan, they will pull your credit to see if you get approved. And then there's certain, if you pull it too many times, your score will definitely tank.
So how many times do you think a person should check their credit score? Like once a quarter?
I check mine once a month.
Twice a year. Once a month?
Yeah. All it takes is go to Credit Karma, right? And just check it, right? Especially if you're building credit, you want to check it once a month, right? Because you usually probably already started low. So you can kind of have that positive effect. You're like, I'm paying on time, right? I'm not adding new debt. You're seeing your debt decrease. And you should see your score kind of go up. Yeah.
Okay, so how realistic is for a person to have an 800 credit score?
800?
Like you never hear about nobody having an 800 credit score.
It's realistic now because before the 2008 crisis, I think the average credit score was 670. Dang. Right now, people got smart and it's over 700, 720 is what I'm hearing. So it's possible 800. I've kind of my rule of thumb is you just need to be above 760, because once you're above 760, you can have the best interest rate out there when you're applying for credit.
Oh.
In terms of a loan, car loan, home loan, personal loan, line of credit. Yeah.
So this question probably a little off. I mean, I guess it's on the credit subject. But since we're going through some hard times right now with the whole virus and people not working and stuff like that, right? If you had a good credit score, would you tell people to go get credit cards just to make sure they got money and set it to the side?
So here's what I did personally. And this was after kind of attending some forums, some webinars of like successful people in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
You want to get all your credit cards or all your type of credit, either personal line of credit, home line of credit, credit cards, total up all your max, and that's your buffer, right? If everything goes to crap,
yeah,
your buffer on how much you can charge up to where, because it's only a short-term basis, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
Where that will sustain you from a short term, right?
Okay.
But if you have savings and other kind of emergency fund, what I've been told is if you have a line of credit, try to increase it, and now you've increased your reserves too, right? Oh. Did that make sense? Do I need to go?
Yeah. So you got a credit card that's 500. See if you can get it increased to like 1,000.
Right. So credit card, just call them up, say, hey, can I increase my credit line to where it doesn't do a credit pool? So there's two different type of credit pools, right? A soft pool and a hard pool. So a hard pool is where they actually check your credit and it decreases your score. A soft pool is basically they just check your credit and then they decide right there if you're approved. Right. So I did that with one of my credit cards, the one that I used the most. I was like, hey, can I get an increase of my credit line to just 1,000? And I need it to be a soft pull, and it got approved.
Okay. So would you?
So with the soft pull, you saying that it won't dink it?
Yeah, it won't decrease your credit or it won't hurt your credit.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So is it good to have some sort of debt?
It is good to have. So there's, it's funny, right? Of all the successful people, they leverage debt.
I heard that.
But they leverage debt not to consume. They leverage debt to produce income. That's
kind of strange It's strange
to hear, right? So
yeah.
So the easiest way most people get it is if you have a rental, right? Let's say you have a line of credit of 50,000, right? Yeah. And you can buy a rental in the Midwest where property prices are way cheaper, right? Wait a minute, so give this example.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking like you got like a 50,000 credit card you can buy
on
the credit.
So a line of credit is different a line of credit is a little different from a credit card, right?
Yeah.
So have you heard of personal line of credit?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, so that's a line of credit, right?
Oh, okay.
So just imagine you have a line of credit of 50K, right? That's sitting there for you to use. If you can leverage that credit to buy an asset like a rental that can produce income, let's say you buy an asset that's 50K and it produces you 500 a month, right?
Yeah.
But when you take out that line of credit from your personal line of credit and your debt payment is only 300, you've basically increased your income by to 200 a month. That asset pays your debt plus gives you income.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. Just imagine you don't touch that income, you just pay down the debt as fast as you can, like we said before. Eventually you raise your income 500K or 500 per month by just having a rental.
That's pretty.
Yeah,
that's sharp.
That's gonna be later on in some other episodes.
That's later on.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
deep right there.
So you got a question? You got a question, there, Jr.
Yeah, I got a question. Moving, going along to property. What would you say, property would be a good investment? Like,
What kind of property?
yeah, like what would be a smart? I would say.
I say if you're going to invest in property, the first thing is
Mm-hmm.
first get educated. So number one thing I always tell people is understand credit and understand credit scores. Because you want to
Okay.
leverage debt that you get from a bank like a mortgage, and you don't want
Yeah.
the terms. You don't want to have a high interest rate, and the only reason why you have a high interest rate is because your credit is not that good. So
Mm-hmm.
always first educate yourself in credit, because that's always step one. Because you can,
Yeah.
you can always find ways to be creative in leveraging. There's other ways to get more money to buy an asset or buy a property.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Yeah.
easiest way in the best financial terms is always to use the bank's money. And you can only get that if you have good credit.
That's it.
Yeah,
Right?
ain't nothing wrong with
Oh,
using other
yeah.
people.
Hey,
Because for example,
hey,
right?
you ain't lying.
Yeah, because for example, let's say right now you're going to try to buy a property here in Washington State. If you have good credit,
Mm-hmm.
the average is 3.25 to 3.5% on a 30-year fix.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have good credit, that can skyrocket up to the 4%. And then, for example, if you're going to do like creative financial strategies, like with a hard money lender or a private lender, let's say I'm a lender
Yeah.
because I have funds that I want to distribute. I'm not going to give you 3.5% to lend. I'm going to give you like 5%, right? Or 6% because I want the best use of my money.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a bank, your bank, the bank gets money from people depositing money, right?
I heard that. I heard
Yeah. So they don't use their own money; they use other people's money.
that's what I heard. Like if somebody put in like 500, the bank, and then somebody come in and ask for a loan for 400, the bank could use your money and something like that. It was.
No, so here's how the bank works. I've kind of heard it in like again another webinar. If the bank has, let's say, $1,000 in deposits from customers, the government will give them 10 times as much to lend out.
Wait, wait.
Wait.
If,
Yeah.
if they got
I
like
don't know if it's
1,000
true.
deposits, the government would give them like 10,000 to lend out.
Because the bank
10,000
is
to
there
day
to
one.
produce money, right? And the government's there to help banks.
Oh,
So the government's printing money, right? There's
yeah.
nothing
Mm-hmm.
tied. Like right now, they're printing money to help us short term, right?
See, that part I
Mm-hmm.
don't understand because if you print something, how does it not lose value because you can just print so much. It's not like,
Yeah.
it keep value because it's not that much out there. But like, if you just keep something going, like I just compare it to like Jordans or something. Like if Jordan put a limited amount of Jordans out, then you know that value is gonna hold. But if he just like flood the market with Jordan, everybody got them. Well, then if you try to resell them, the value go way down because they put so many out
Again, I don't know the economics of kind of currency and how it circulates, but currency circulates all the time. So Jordans don't circulate, right? You keep that value, right? It's a limited quantity.
there. It
But
depends.
money circulates all the time because you want it to circulate with the potential of creating better services, better innovation, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
increases your production amount for the whole country or for a company, etc. So that's why you want money circulating all the time. That's why they're giving this stimulus. Because if, for example, if you're hoarding your stimulus money and just saving it, you're not helping the economy. So it's not circulating. You're not buying stuff. And that person that receives
Mm-hmm.
it is not buying stuff, right? So that's why they want money circulating.
Oh,
That's why
But
they don't want you to save and kind of just
they
consume
want you to.
because they want that money to circulate because it helps the economy.
okay. Huh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got another one. I got another one. Um, why should you shoot for a credit score above 760?
You get the best interest rate. That's all it is.
That's yeah.
The best.
When you
They do treat you different once they run their credit score. I tell you that.
they
Like
do
a
because
billionaire.
the list, again, think of it as a bank. So from now on, every time you think of your money, think of it how you would approach a bank would look at you, right? If you have a high credit score of 760 and above,
Yeah.
it's less risk, right? And plus, if they look at your credit history and you paid all the time and your debt, because the banks are, when you apply for a loan, it's either where your job is or what your job is, right? How
Yeah.
long you've been there, what's your monthly gross income, what's your debt, right? And then they pull your credit. First, obviously, they're like, okay, even though you have high income and low debt, but you have a 600 credit score, you'll still get the worst rate, right?
Oh,
Even though you have high income. But
Yeah.
now, so they'll always look at your credit score first, just to get like a feel of, okay, this guy is safe or not. But then they look at your income, your debt, your employment history, right? Even your type of job, right? There's certain risk factors in your job.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Well, dang, that's one thing. See, that's why we're gonna, this season is different. We on here to learn. JR, do you got some questions?
I do. Like I said, man, me and the wife is on that verge, is looking for a house. So my question is now at this particular time, like once again, a smart time to look for a house.
There's always, so what they say in the real estate industry is when you have a buyer looking for the house, the best time is always now, right? Because you never know what's going to happen in the future. But
Yeah.
I kind of twist that in a little bit. Is this the best time to buy a house now? Is if you can financially do it, right? I kind of put that kind of caveat on there because me as a realtor, right, I can sell you a house any day of the week, right? If I really pushed it.
Yeah.
But again, I want you to be in the best financial situation possible when you start with that house, right? Because you can't build wealth or feel that kind of independence if you, for me personally, if you don't have a home that you can call your home, right?
Yeah.
Because now you're going to take care of that home. You'll have neighbors that you feel better with, right? Kind of your community instead of an apartment.
Yeah.
It just feels better, right? Now, think of it. If you have positivity in your life more than negativity, or you don't feel cramped, you'll definitely do better and produce better than where you are now, right? So there's a mental aspect to it as well, right? If you feel cramped, you can't produce. And it's really hard. Yeah, and if you're in that situation, you're like, hey, we need to move on. Definitely talk to a realtor you trust and have them. And then even, what I tell people who are potential clients, I'm like, you need to interview me as much as I need to interview you, right? Because I don't want the worst client in the area. It'll be hard to find them a home and kind of match up their goals, right?
So
you kind of.
So sorry to cut you off. So every real estate agent don't take every customer.
Oh.
Because it's time. It's what is worth your time, right? Right. If you can have the worst customer and take up so much of your time, you're wasting that, or not, you're not wasting time, but you're allocating that much time where there could be a potential customer that has all their stuff together and the transaction's way easier.
I thought as a real estate agent, you were just looking at the money, like, because, I guess I know people don't come and buy houses like people buy cars. So, I thought like every customer, like you wouldn't turn them down no matter what.
But again, in this day and age, right, it's all about customer service. If I just say, I'm just going to sell you a home, no matter how the outcome is, you know, word's going to get out.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're right.
Exactly.
You're right. I had a person, Kelly, one of the listeners. He wanted me to ask you a question about financial.
Okay.
He said, how do you think people deal with their credit? Those who were struggling before this and those who just started just now during this crisis.
Repeat that. It
Oh,
seems like
he said,
a mouthful.
how do how do you think people deal with their debt? Those who were struggling before this and those who just started struggling with debt because of this crisis that we're in. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So if you were struggling before this crisis, honestly, I think it depends on your mindset, right? And your outlook at life. If you look at all the successful people, and this is something that I'm just continuous learning, it's all about mindset. If your mindset is in a positive situation or positive environment, you can overcome anything. You know, you've heard the rags to riches stories. That all started with mindset. So even though you could be in credit, in bad debt before the crisis, if you have that mindset, I'm going to get out of this situation to where it improves, you'll figure out a solution. But if you're in that comfort zone and you haven't trained your mind, people, right, they were in comfort zone. My job's secure. I have a middle class or white collar job, and all of a sudden it's gone, and you haven't experienced that. I can tell you firsthand, it really sucks. Because, like I told you, Cal, I experienced that in 2018, where I got comfortable, and it wasn't that good.
But like when you got laid off from your job, how long were you at that job?
I was there for like 4 years.
So when you got laid off at that job, was it out the blue or was it like a warning like, okay, this month you getting laid off?
They gave me a 90-day warning.
Oh, man, that's pretty.
Luckily, they gave me a 90-day warning, and they're like, look for another
that's
job.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that's better than some people just come in and get laid off. But I guess
Be
you,
like,
like you said, you
damn.
got so comfortable that that probably was like a lifetime job right there, right?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be there for a while.
Well, yeah.
And so during that time, my mindset was like, I'm chill. This is all good. Just do my job. I'll be okay. My company will take care of me. And, you know, you can just kind of imagine that's like before COVID, right? I'm good. There was no warning. And all of a sudden, COVID, you got to stay home. Companies decide what to do. And then they're like, we got to cut or you get furloughed. You know what I'm saying?
So when you was comfortable in your job, did you still have that mindset of like investing and then like the real estate, like with your properties and stuff? Did you still have that same hustle when you was working your job, or did this come after they let you go?
I think I was investigating it, but just getting let go just kind of intensified trying to find a different strategy, different way, right? I'm like, there's got to be better. Like I've been in the tech industry for a while. I'm like, and if you look back, you're like, man, should have started earlier.
Yeah, that's what everybody says.
That's
That's
what
what it
everyone
is.
says. Yeah, should have started earlier. No, like no one told you, right? No one
Yeah,
told you.
yeah. I mean, you hear the successful stories, but then you be like, is it really like that? Because then you taking a chance and you have to spend money. It's all about, am I going to get that money back on whatever chance I take? So yeah.
But I've heard that. Let's go back to your question, right? So if pre-COVID you were struggling and you're struggling more, you'll find motivated people within that group that's going to be successful after this, right? Because something will click, they'll get that opportunity, they'll jump on it no matter what, they'll risk it all, and they'll be successful.
Well,
It's easier to take a risk on something that's successful and because you have nothing, it's only in the way up. You hate to be in that middle, right? Because you're like, it's gonna go down or you're gonna go up, right? And you have to calculate that risk. And it's a really difficult situation.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, you go, Jay. You go, Jay. I know you got more.
I thought I had more. No, that's it.
Oh, you don't have no more?
No, I thought I did. No, that was it.
Okay, I got one more question. It's
I guess so.
somebody said to ask you, what's up with the stat that 40% of American households can't cover a surprise $400 expense?
We live beyond our means, I guess. That's just how it is, right? You can't really. It depends. It's the American way of life, I guess. We want to experience life right now, and we always assume we'll find a solution later, and we never kind of plan for that emergency. Honestly, I can say I was like that too.
You were blowing
Like,
money like that?
yeah, I was like, I'm gonna just live life, I stocked away money from like investments, like the stock market. But again, I've been through like 3 recessions. The 2K one, 2008, now this. And
So,
it's always
so when did you start get serious about saving an emergency fund and all that stuff for a rainy day? Like when did
I
you get
think
started with money?
I just started. So luckily, so I didn't learn any. So I got married earlier, had kids, right? Like in my 20s, early 20s. So that, you know, when you have a new kid, you're like, oh, I'm gonna treat them right, blah blah blah. So you don't really save. So college years, that was during college years, and then in the industry, tech industry, I was putting away for retirement, but I wasn't planning for emergencies. But the emergencies were covered through credit, right? But that all depended if my job was secure. So you don't really think about that, right? You never think of
Yeah.
your job being cut like that.
Yeah.
But now with COVID-19, that blows everything away. So you really need to save for an emergency, right?
Yeah.
Your credit should be for short term in like an emergency pandemic like this, right? So if you're using credit right now, don't feel bad. Everyone's using their credit cards just to get by. But once we get out of all this, you really need an emergency fund, right? They say 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever you're comfortable with, just to prepare for the next one, because you never know.
You never, yeah. Man.
Well, I do. This is my last question, to help JR out. What is the three main things that, he should do? We're gonna talk about this, the house buying thing in another episode with Mark later on. But, what is the three main things that you think JR should do pertaining to buying his first home? Like the credit score, like how much money he should save up, like, stuff like that.
So again, it's really weird how I would have this as number one, but you got to change your mindset to envision yourself that you can get it, right? You have to train your mind. Anything's possible, even though with your current situation, you're going to do better. So listen to like positive motivation kind of, quotes, or read some positive books. That'll change your mindset, because that'll expand your mind to something that was not possible previously, but becomes possible because you're kind of thinking that way. After that, again, it all depends on how you're spending, right? It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep, right? So if you're spending, honestly, if you're spending because that's the way you're kind of surviving, once you get that positive mental attitude in place, you'll figure out how to produce more income. So you don't necessarily need to decrease your spending if there's no way to decrease it, because that's how your normal living expenses. Get some positive mental education to find out ways to increase income. Because you never want to be always decreasing expenses. You always want to be increasing income.
Yeah.
And from there, once you do those two things, you figure out you're always thinking positive. You find a way to create income in different ways, different strategies. Any goal that you set from a financial standpoint, I'm sure you can reach. It's not just like buying a house. It could be anything that deals with finance. It's always those two things that I've learned is the gateway to like that financial upper tier.
Changing the mindset and spending habits.
No, changing the mindset and always figuring out ways to produce income.
Okay, figuring out ways to produce. Gotcha.
That's it.
Oh man, thank you so much for coming on, Mark. Now, as I said, Mark gonna come on. We're gonna make special episodes called Financial Talk with Mark. Pertain to different subjects and different walks of life in order to help you on your financial journey to the top. And Mark, where can everyone find like more information about you or reach out to you if they want to reach out and ask you something?
Yeah, so if you want to reach out to me, just email me at mridao@gmail.com. So that's kind of more getting to know me personally. But for my real estate business, it is mark@newberryrealty.com. Are you gonna put that in the show notes? I don't know if you have show notes.
Yeah, I'll put that in the notes for this episode. Put the links to how to get a hold of you. So yeah, I'm gonna put it in the notes.
Cool, man. Appreciate it.
And so I always give a motivational quote before JR wrap it up. And the motivational quote today is, if you do what you always did, you will get what you always got. And with that, I'm gonna let JR do his signature, thing to take us out. Thank you for tuning in again to Financial Talk with Mark, and JR, gonna do your thing.
Well, thank you, my co-host himself, Cal. You heard me. Mark, we appreciate you, man. Tons, man, coming through, dropping all the knowledge down. You heard me. Helping the wife and I out, man, because I would definitely, I'm gonna go look some things up, man. Like I said, man, I ain't perfect, and you touch bases on some of the things in which I am or need to change, I must say. So we appreciate you, man, coming through, man. So
thank you.
To wrap it up, like we always do, every guest we have on the show, we have to have them do our signature. So it's Cal and J a day. Sitting at home.
What was that? Cal and J.
So what you gonna say? A day. Every day. Every day.
Every day. All right. Cal and J every day.
There you go. I love it.
Hey man, I'm new. I'm new. You can see it. I'm the rookie.
All right, Mark. Thank you for coming through. We'll see you next time. This is just the beginning right here. So, all right, Mark.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, take care, guys.
All right.